Hello and welcome back to northern Montana, and we are back checking in with the Well Done Foundation. I'm on a family vacation and thought that while I was up in Montana, it would be a good time to swing by Shelby, check in with the foundation and see what's going on this year. It's been about 7 months since I was here last, and see how the progress has gone. One of the things I noticed while I was walking around here yesterday was that there are a lot more plugged wells and wells in process, and as Curtis said over the phone, things might look a little gnarly, but that means there's work in progress. So I think that's great. It's funny because as I was walking around looking at some of the other wells that aren't capped and aren't under Well Done's program yet, and there's just like a chunk of railroad tie sitting over the open well. So that might look a little cleaner because there isn't the torn up earth and everything around it. But that one's still venting methane, and the maybe a little more gnarly looking ones with the cement still around and the groundwork isn't complete looks really bad, but those are the ones where the emissions have stopped. So that's the key factor and what we really want to focus on. We took a walk to each of the well sites, and I was really impressed by the finished cap to the well I got to see plugged. From all that equipment down to just a small monitoring cap, and best of all, no emissions. Also excited to see that they're working on multiple plugs at once, showing the pace is picking up. In an adjacent field, I saw the familiar drilling and maintenance rig from last year and walked over to talk to Matt Enenberg, who owns it. Today they were doing maintenance on a still functioning but underperforming well, but he said the week before and the next week they'd be on well done jobs, saying Curtis was keeping them pretty busy. It was good to touch base and get his perspective on the progress, but he didn't have time for an interview. And then after the field, we went down to the visitor center and saw some of the new displays they have there, talked to Stacey about some of the new programs they're doing, some of the work they're doing with school children, and some of the places they're expanding. So pretty exciting stuff. I met with Stacey on June 24th, but wasn't able to get a hold of Curtis and get our schedules sorted out until August 14th, so there's a little gap between our conversations, but I am going to jump back and forth depending on the topic between Curtis and Stacey as they talk about their progress.
And as of today, we are starting our 8th well, plugging, and we have finished our visitor center, which we were working on, I think, when you were here at the open house. We've been printing photos so we can sell them for the foundation. All profits go towards plugging the abandoned wells. Goal for this year is 30 wells here out in Shelby. And so far, it's on track, weather dependent, of course.
When we set this up, you were saying you just finished number 10?
Yeah, we just got the bottom. Plug at number 10 yesterday, and so we'll go back and tag on Monday morning, and then I'm gonna haul ass for. I'm supposed to be in State College, PA, for meetings on Wednesday. So we got funding is coming in for these projects, and yeah, everything is not everything is coming together, but things are coming together. We're getting, lined up with our methodology with the American Carbon Registry. And so, yeah, it's going to be, certainly 2022 is going to be an exciting year for us.
Looking for people to help sponsor and adopt the wells. So I believe all the work that Curtis has been doing has really made a difference in the last year. It's amazing how many people have heard about us and have heard of our cause and how many more people we need to reach. Just did a road trip about 2 weeks ago, and we are expanding in Louisiana, Kansas, Pennsylvania. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have wells that are going to be plugged there.
Building this ecosystem that we're building right now, and we're hoping to start plugging in Pennsylvania and Louisiana in probably late September, early October.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So kicking right off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So do you have flow chambers out there already then?
We've got, we're monitoring wells in both locations, and so in PA and Louisiana, and we're just kind of doing the qualification right now and working through all of the regulatory stuff with the various and sundry responsible regulators. But it's going well. They're super receptive, the PA and Louisiana especially, and so that's kind of not that Montana's not. It's just nice that there are other states that are more, or I should say, less, inclined to, be helpful. Some of them manage the work like a public works type of a project. So when we come in and say, hey, we want to pay you to take the well and do it, they're like, can't figure it out. You know what I mean? Too much. And again, for a lot of these folks, it's like, if it's not in the book, then, they either A, can't get there, or B, just the challenge to try to work through it, their own system. So, for us, there's just too much other stuff we can be doing and focusing on, and, don't need to push water up a rope. I mean, at some point they'll get it together, but, for us right now, it's like there's too much other stuff happening. So.
Yeah, I suppose if you have states that are receptive, then you want to focus on those, and the ones that are going to take a while, then, kind of keep those working in the background, but,
Right.
Focus on what you can do now.
Yeah, precisely. If we want to make an impact, then that's the thing to do. So it's not that they're off the table. It's just that they're just not on our top priority list at this point in time. So.
I'm really surprised you're able to start plugging in other locations this year still. I mean, that's pretty rapid progress. So
yeah, and it's good because these guys, and I think it's like just like us. I mean, they are keen to see some base hits. Like, we're truncating our monitoring program.
okay.
For us, it's like, we know when they're, we know if a well is emitting, and again, they probably aren't going to fit 100% in our serialization of carbon offsets, but it's important for us to to get in. It's important for the community. It's important for the regulatory agencies that Well Done Foundation gets in and starts cracking. And that's been our our MO all along, is that we're an action-based organization. And a lot of there's so many out there that just talk a good game, and
yeah, we're gonna do it someday.
Yeah,
instead of do it now.
precisely. So yeah, so that's good. And it was really important to hang and get this number 10 done. That's a really nice even milestone, and super exciting to be able to make that happen. And our partners at Montana Board of Oil and Gas were right there with us, and able to kind of get us through those approval processes quickly, since we had an opening with the service company. The challenge is and certainly is going to continue to be, is just finding like everybody, workforce is a huge issue. And then that kind of translates into availability and scheduling. And so, one of the things that we're working on with our ecosystem of partners here is to essentially, as we prepare to scale up in 2022, is to have dedicated crews in these areas that are just, working specifically for us, doing, and then that way we can have a delivery schedule that we can perform to, versus, sort of being at the whim and mercy, if you would, of the service companies. Obviously, now with the price of crude being up, that issue of out of work oil and gas workers isn't really what we're finding. And of course, everywhere has a shortage of people power. But anyway, so that's our focus, is building these systems and getting them ready to deploy as we're creating this, like I said, this ecosystem and these teams, across the country. Then we want to make sure that we're providing them with the tools and the leadership and direction to be successful as we start to kind of launch these projects. Yeah, we actually are in the process now. Ohio is right there, Kansas is right there, and Oklahoma is right there for us.
Wow.
Our agreement, our agreement in PA allows us to with the companies that we're aligned with there to work in New York and West Virginia and Ohio. And so,
nice. So it opens up access to other places.
It does, yeah. So, but we're actively monitoring wells right now in those 3 states.
Everything's been awesome. Everybody's been interested, and everybody that you talk to is super excited about what we're doing, which makes us really happy. That's really what we want to do. We want to get the word out there, and we want to start letting everybody know what's going on so we can plug the wells. You have to rely on educating people and getting the job done, hiring the locals to help you out and give them jobs to help them in the community. Our visitor center, we opened it up and worked hard on it as part of giving back to the community, to help Main Street and to make a place for people to go. We've been doing field trips for 3rd graders, teaching them about the wells and how to plug, and we have a hands-on demonstration. And we've had them out to the field on Earth Day, where they came out and watched us actually plug the well, 30 below, 40-mile-an-hour winds, and they were so pumped. They did not want to go home. We wanted to go home, but they didn't want to go home. Curtis does dress up in full gear with the hard hat and the coveralls, and we do a safety meeting, so we teach them about safety. He does his presentation, and then they get to plug their own well. So these are the little wells that we have, the mock-up that we have the children do, and it shows the different layers with the sand and the cement, and this represents the actual well bore. So we can show them what it takes to actually close it, and then they get to take these home and tell everybody they made them. They're really cool.
I always include like our 6-part series or your 6-part series. So I want you to know that is getting, like we use that, I use that as a resource all the time and for instance, we used that as kind of our base curriculum for our 3rd grade classes. And so we're starting to develop literally this 3rd grade curriculum as we're working in these various areas. And so one of the kind of the prerequisites, if you would, to coming into a classroom session with us is they've got to watch the series, which is great because it gives or painful depending on how it goes, but it allows it gives the teachers some real substance to be able to present to the class, and then that way too, when they actually come in for their hour and a half, classroom session with us, they're already sort of up to speed. So.
Yeah, Stacey shared with me some of the photos and kind of the story of you putting on the whole gear and going through the safety meeting and then them plugging their own wells, and that's just, it's such a great hands-on, really showing what you're doing, something they can take home and feel some ownership of like, I really get it and this is what it is.
Yeah. No, we're excited to, like I said, to expand those educational programs, starting this fall in these other areas that we're operating. And so, one of the strategies for us on the communication side is continuing to advance that education model. We're looking, we've thought that we would be replicating the visitor center concept in these other areas that we're working. But one of the things that we're finding quickly is that we're working in so many areas that it probably doesn't make sense that, for a couple of reasons. Number one, we're again such a broadly geographic area, but then also it's just this additional overhead that if we could be plugging wells with that overhead. Not every place is as affordable as Shelby is, right?
Yeah.
So what we've come up with, Brian, is a pop-up program, and so we'll actually be having a well done road show coming to you soon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so and that'll allow us then to be more effective over a broader area, and my hope is that we'll be able to have teams that are out there, being able to make these presentations and talk about what we're doing to these various and sundry audiences, whoever they may be, and then we'll also be running, like I said, our third grade curriculum, and we started with a third grade because, realistically, because we had some awesome third grade teachers here in Shelby, Montana, and the school administration, the principal was, so into what we were doing. And so we decided, plus, once I got up in front of the third grade, I figured that was probably an age group I could compete with a little bit, what I mean?
I understand.
Yeah. So I think we're going to continue that third grade curriculum, and actually, like I said, as part of the foundation, we'll build out a program that allows us then to sort of standardize that message across, our entire system. So
Yeah, it's such a great idea to, because then they go home and talk to their parents about it, and it's a great way to have word spread.
You know what? It's cute that we get the community involved.
Yeah.
In these towns. It's really fun. And we're looking forward to doing that in Louisiana, Pennsylvania, Kansas, and everywhere that we're going. We named one of our chambers that we test the methane with, Dorothy, like from Twister. And he has a whole thing where he's taking her all over the country and takes photos of her in the back of his truck, which is really cute. So Dorothy's in Pennsylvania right now doing her job, which is great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're going to need a production line just to make flow chambers pretty soon here.
Yeah, and we're certainly waiting to see how that all shakes out, what the ultimate requirements are for measuring and monitoring. And we're continuing to experiment with new stuff, new systems since you were out last. And so it's we've got some good things happening with a company that we're partnering with up in Canada called Vent Busters, and we're excited at the partnership we're developing there. So yeah, it's like we've got a lot of balls in the air right now. It's an exciting time.
So what is the you said Vent Busters?
Vent Busters.
What did they do?
Well, they have a monitoring system that they use in Canada for a different application, still measuring methane gas flow. Mm-hmm. But it's in a different application. So we've sort of adapted it for our use and are, experimenting with a number of configurations, if you would, in the field. What is awesome about this particular system is that it allows for continuous monitoring, and which will be a requirement in the methodology. Continuous monitoring over certain periods of time or blocks of time. And so, and of course, in order for us to do that with handheld equipment, and that means you have to position people in the field, and that gets not only expensive, but it's also, it just every time, we have human interface in this system, it's just another opportunity of risk. And so we're trying to look at how we, create or can deploy these engineering solutions to help sort of de-risk that, especially as we start growing and, adding teams across the country. But the biggest thing is this continuous monitoring. And so this particular system provides a data point every 15 seconds. And it provides some really good mapping or reporting. And so charting of that data, not only the collection of the actual data points, but then the presentation of it visually. We started testing, I should say, with the Vent Buster system in late October last year after you had gone. And One of probably certainly in northern Montana, one of the biggest sort of aha moments for us in using the system. And it was, I think it underscored something that we intuitively felt was a thing, but we couldn't really prove it with the way that we were monitoring. And that is the impact of wind on the open well bores and what it's doing in terms of accelerating the generation of gas just through a vacuum or like a Venturi effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now, as we've been monitoring for 8 months on with various and sundry pieces and wells and what have you, whenever we have a prairie wind event, we can see marked emissions from especially some of those wells that are kind of on that lower category, not super gassy or not like, and since you've been out, we're working on some wells now that are just like crazy high in terms of their emission. And when there's that much emission, it doesn't affect it. It's for some of those lower emitters, it does. And we're seeing like a 2 and 3x time the emissions. So it's definitely significant. So.
Wow, great to be able to prove that. Is this monitoring more for the like boards of oil and gas, or is this more for generating the carbon credits and having the proof of emissions reduction in that?
Yeah, it's all about the carbon credit thing. And remember the states are not involved in the emission calculation or any of the emission validation. That's just not, they just don't do that, right?
Okay.
Which is interesting because one would think that they did, but they don't, and that's fine. It's a private thing, and that's okay. I'm going to share a screen here real quick. This is real time. This is a well that's happening. It's going off right now. So the cool thing is that if from anywhere, from a phone, from laptop, desktop, we can pull up the wells that we're monitoring and see what they're doing, right? See what's happening. And this is fairly interesting here. This particular well is showing the blue line here is the actual flow. And so we can go in there and see where it is. So it's got some pretty high flows. This is all measured in cubic meters per day. Okay. And all the way down to some fairly low points. The other thing that's also interesting is just how much deviation there is in these various and sundry flows. And so and I can show you some other wells too that are show you one in Pennsylvania that's a little less less flow but more fluctuation. And so it just keys in on the fact that every well's got its own personality and its own, sort of attributes in terms of what it's doing. And, and so that's been interesting as well. At the end of the day, it's all about, the averaging over a period of time. And that's really what's key. Mm-hmm. For us to be able to pull up, where that well is and this number up here, the average flow rate, what it is that we're getting. And so what we'll end up doing is we'll end up taking, readings, 24-hour periods over so however many months, 6 months, whatever, and then we'll end up with an average flow. And then of course, we still are sampling the gas for concentration. So the density of the gas or the gas makeup, which is a separate test altogether, independent lab for testing. And so, but yeah, pretty cool stuff. We've come a long way, baby, since last time, we were working together out there, but it's key. And again, for us, it's about this whole scalability strategy. Is how are we going to be able to monitor across multiple fields and multiple wells. And so, for instance, that's been kind of a big focus of mine. And so,
Yeah, that's definitely good to figure out now because yeah, as we were talking last year, you having to go out there in the dead of winter and check them all by hand it's tough to scale that.
it is for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And we've learned even using this system here too, that, they're like its effectiveness goes away under about 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's not because of the equipment, it's because the wells actually start to freeze up because there's so much moisture in the gas. And, so
Oh,
anyhow, we're learning every day new lessons, and then of course, as we're working in these other areas too, Pennsylvania and Louisiana, those bring along with them their own specific and unique challenges. And, I would just say, kind of the biggest takeaway from our efforts in PA are access. And, there's lots of wells for sure, tens and tens and hundreds of thousands, but the challenge there is being able to get to them. And, like we are working closely with the State Department of Environmental Protection. My kind of message to them continuously is, look, we're not loggers and we're not road builders. And so if you want us to get in and do this work, we're going to have to find a way to get, roads built and logging done. And, what happened, Brian, is back in the late 1800s when they were doing that work back there, they must have clear cut the whole state. But they also, their equipment configurations were completely different too. I mean, they were literally
a lot smaller.
well, yeah, they were moving stuff with horses, teams of horses, and it's obvious by the locations. And so now we just need to be thoughtful of that. This next week I'll actually be in the Allegheny National Forest with the U.S. Forest Service and the state of Pennsylvania looking at some projects there. And again, it's kind of that same thing as we gotta figure out this access thing, in order to be able to scale it up for everyone. And so, to me, it seems like a no-brainer, really good use for some of those infrastructure funds. Let's create some backbone infrastructure here that will not only enable public access into some of these, hard to get to public lands, but then will also, help to, drive, the development of, some of these plugging systems once we can actually get to them. Because otherwise what happens is that the cost per well, the cost per unit is just astronomical. If you have to build a road and do all the logging to make that happen, it would never be economically feasible.
You definitely can't manage that alone, and you'd be hard pressed to find a donor that can swing that.
Yeah, and so I think there's a collaboration happening there, and definitely, lights are going on, and seeing some opportunities here of being able to work together. But we're 100% committed to being in Pennsylvania. We're focusing on, there's plenty of sites, and so we're certainly looking at those. But it's amazing a lot of density in these super like deep woods, and it's and not only is it deep woods, but it's fairly steep terrain too. In this,
I was going to say, yeah, is that mountainous then too?
Yeah,
probably.
It's not like being in Montana, that's for sure. So, yeah, it's nice. It's nice coming back to Montana and being able to watch your dog run away for a week and know that you can move over to the next well and get rigged up in half a day versus half a week or a week. So
well, and because that's a much more populated area, I mean, I don't know exactly where in the state you are, but I would think in some of these states, some of these wells have to be relatively close to homes or farms, where the ranches in Montana are pretty expansive comparatively.
Yeah. Totally. And we're working, one of the wells that we're working to plug right now is in the city of Bradford, Pennsylvania. And it's literally in a residential neighborhood. and still super steep terrain and some, crazy access issues, but it's literally, like I said, in a residential area. So we're working with the city there. It's actually the well is on city property, and so we're working with them on the development of our access agreements and what have you. But we're confident we'll be able to get through those and hopefully get that one plugged in short order. And that will really, that's going to be a very important well. It's going to show, I think, the kind of that intersection of community and environment and industry. And so, which, as you know, are the sort of really the cornerstones, the legs of our stool. And so we're excited to get that one going.
I can see maybe the neighbors would be hesitant on the front end, but then very happy on the back end, once it's done. So, and then that'll be a good thing to show, future project areas too, that, like you were saying, the process is a little gnarly in the middle, but once you get through it, you got a nice capped well and no emissions. So.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. So anyhow, and every project has its own nuances and unique attributes, and so
yeah. Well, maybe in the winter I'll go down to Louisiana.
There you go.
Check that out.
Yeah, down in Louisiana, it's interesting because and I was just there, a couple of weeks back, and 95 degrees and 95% humidity. It was crazy. And then,
yeah, I've been down there a couple times in the summer, and you're just swimming through the air.
Yeah, it's brutal, and it's interesting. And then, of course, there's other environmental issues too, like wildlife, gators and snakes and wild hogs that are something that is certainly a consideration. Again, as we're putting teams in the field, to be thinking about managing that safety risk.
Are there a lot of wells in like the more marshy lands or wetlands?
There are some, and a lot of that, a lot of that area is susceptible to be, a wetland, after any given storm.
Yeah, I suppose.
So yeah, it's, access is a definite, issue for us as we're looking at these various areas. And so, but it's, a lot of great people, and that's, I think, is really the common theme here across the well done system, is that people are interested in just making a difference. And again, it's just doing things differently and leaving it better for the next guy, right? It's not really, nothing crazy. I mean, it's such a fun core principle. It's pretty it's super straightforward. So
yeah, definitely.
But we're continuing to through working with folks like yourself, and now getting the word out, lots of various and sundry platforms, and it's just that awareness piece has been critical to our mission, which is really at our core of being an educational foundation.
For us personally, I don't think so, because all our money so far has been private money. We haven't taken any government or taxes. So for us, we just want the normal person to be aware of what we're doing, and we want as many supporters as we can get to plug them, because better to do it now than wait for all the politics, right? You've been hearing about it a lot more, I have noticed, but I guess for us, it doesn't really, not that it doesn't matter what's going on, because it does matter, but we're trying to stay focused on what we need to do, regardless of the government. I shouldn't say that on TV.
No, because, like you said, it can.
But it's true, because,
take a long time, or, the winds can change. And
yeah, you can't rely on that. You have to rely on educating people and getting the job done, hiring the locals to help you out and give them jobs to help them in the community.
I will say this for sure, every little bit counts. And, we're seeing, through all of the, activities and initiatives and campaigns that we've got running out there, we're seeing definitely an uptick in in donor support, which is great because it's allowing us to do this work in these other places. So I don't ever want, I mean, gosh, that was, kind of my thought as I was standing on top of the cement bulk truck yesterday, watching us, take the last joint of pipe out of the bottom plug is, just how fortunate we are to have, this amazing, group of folks who are supporting our work. And again, and support, doesn't necessarily mean, always writing a check. I mean, it's like, people like you come out and, volunteer, or people, who are sharing our posts, or people who are, splashing ink around, on our behalf. I mean, it's a pretty big initiative, and, like I said, every little bit is significant. And so it's pretty humbling to be a part of what we're doing right now, and seeing it grow, and more people, getting energized around it. And so, yeah, there's, it's absolutely an amazing time. I mean, I'm having to, as you can imagine, spend more and more time and, focusing on this initiative. I mean, I'm still a volunteer, of course, so that's a good thing. And it, for me, it allows me to have a certain amount of freedom, in terms of, what I'm able to do and how I'm able to talk about the project. It's a little bit of a challenge when we're recruiting certainly new folks to the team, not so much on the service company side, of course, because obviously we pay those guys, but for others who are kind of joining our leadership team. So I always tell them I'll pay them twice what I make, right? So
What a deal.
heck yeah, well, it sounds good,
Yeah.
until you read the fine.
It's great that you are getting support, and seeing that awareness grow, because it is such a fantastic project. And I'm so excited. I'm when we were talking last year, I was like, okay, Montana's a good start, and we'll see how these other states go, if that happens in 2 years or 3 years, or when that's going to go. But the fact that you're planning on plugging yet this year is fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's exciting, and it's important for us to show that, like I said, those quick base hits that we're out there doing this. I mean, again, it's all about the one well at a time program, and might as well, as we enter into these pilot projects for these various states and entities, it's super critical that we, like I said, that we just start making progress. So that's great.
You were mentioning 2022. I know the goal for Shelby was 30 wells this year. Are you still feeling good about that, or is time slipping away?
Well, we'll see.
Like, kind of how you see next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly for the Northern Montana project, like I said, we just plugged number 10. At some point, right now, it's really driven by available funding.
Okay.
Until our methodology is in place and we're able to really serialize the offsets, it's again, that's making that we're having to operate based on corporate sponsorships and what have you. And so we are getting those for sure. Our focus for 2022 is I kind of have I have a goal that has been made for our organization to, between now and the end of the year, to get 1,000 wells teed up for starting execution in 2022, and that's across all of the states that we're working in. So I got a lot of work to do, and we're starting to tee up our field teams, our wildcatters out there to help me to get these wells identified, and then start to get them in the pipeline, if you would, for execution. But that's the standard, is 1,000 wells, and we'll see.
Are there several where there's several within a field, or is it generally more spread out than that?
We're hoping that, we'll be able to identify those areas of density, Brian, and because it's really, just on an economy of scale, issue, and we're able to, keep the cost of plugging down more if we're not mobbing, all over, hill and dale, literally. And so, no, we're definitely focusing on that. But, for sure, the, super emitters are our key focus. I mean, those are the worst offenders. And so, for us, it's, or for me, for sure, it's, focusing on, those projects that really move the needle. And, that's hopefully the message that we get out to, those people who are working with us and partnering with us. And whatever you're doing, do a good job. But we hope that you are doing something that moves the needle at the end of the day. And, it's been interesting. I mean, even folks who I wouldn't expect to be hearing that type of dialogue from, I'm starting to hear that sort of that level of awareness that, hey, I want to be working in a project that is meaningful and, really makes a difference. And so, it's awesome to hear that. But, again, everybody can do something. And that's our message to the third grade, which is, just do something today that leaves whatever you're doing better for the next guy behind you, right? And just continuous improvement, and just spend a little bit of time thinking like that as a community, and and as an area and a country. Then we're gonna think good things are gonna happen.
I mean, we know it's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have to do something about it. So if we all have that notion where this is too hard to handle and just step away from it, that's not good. Right. So that's why our motto is one well at a time, because you have to start somewhere. And sort of that's what we're doing. It's not easy, but it's worth it, because every time one is shut, you feel proud that you accomplished it. And when you see the numbers and when you see what the outcome is just shutting one well, it's worth it, because multiply that by thousands and tens of thousands or millions. And also, so far, the wells that we have closed, we monitor them. And so there's been zero emissions on all of those, which is really exciting.
I've known, I think, from day one that this thing was way bigger than I was. And, that like I said, from that moment in northern Montana back in 2019, when I first, stepped onto my first orphan well and looked around in, complete and utter terror and disbelief that, from that moment on, it's been sort of, this driving force in my life for whatever reason, good or bad or crazy. Which I ask myself that a lot, believe me. And about every time, I feel like I'm out of gas, or I've hit a wall, or I've, gone straight and the road turned left, another door opens or another light goes on. And so, kind of my deal is I'm going to keep charging after this thing as long as I can. And, I'm hoping that, that as others sort of join the team here, that they're going to kind of get that fire too. And so it's been exciting stuff. So, in fact, I was going to tell you, I got a call next week. We're looking at doing some work in South America. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty cool.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Got a group that's reached out to us.
And they reached out to you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. They need to be plugged everywhere. We're all breathing the same air.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we're working with a group up in Canada now. So yeah, things are happening, and like I said, we're excited to be, kind of in the position that we're in. We know certainly that with that comes, a significant amount of responsibility to, hopefully be good stewards and create the, best possible platform that we can for people to be successful. But yeah, no, we're excited about that. Yeah, and this is a team sport, and that's kind of my message out there there is that this is something that, obviously it's way bigger than the Well Done Foundation. And so, having others involved in it, again, and, we're aligning with people who are like-minded in their mission. There's going to be any number of profiteer and flim flam coming along down the pike, and I get a call from them a couple, 2-3 times a week, and you can pretty quickly sort of see through the smoke. Obviously they're not, we want to support those folks who are doing it for the right reasons, and that's really our focus.
Well, like you were saying with the other, potential visitor center, you got to weigh like the more overhead we add, the fewer wells we can plug.
Right.
And so although you need to get the message out and educate, you can't do that at the expense of the mission of actually doing, like you said, your action oriented work.
Yeah, it's really hard to justify that, and we'll see. And like I said, we are, we know we're going to need, to create that infrastructure in certain places.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, next week on Wednesday, I'm going to be at Penn State University. We've got a group there that's forming. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to find a way to call, Penn State, or certainly, State College, that area, kind of home for a bit there in PA as we're getting that program up and running. Penn State University has indicated some really intense interest in working with us in the mission and generating offsets, and just, having this opportunity to sort of embrace being a participant in a great project. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that seems like a great partnership.
I mentioned even the goal of 1,000 wells. We're just managing that many projects is like overwhelming, and so we're so systems development right now for me is super key. Is how do we bring the people in and the systems in that will be able to support that much data? Because if you think about that, right, you think of 1,000 wells and managing 24-hour tests for each of those 1,000 wells every month, and how much data that is. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it takes a measurement every 15 seconds, you said? Yeah, I mean, that's a monstrous amount of data to keep straight.
It is. And so that's, those are the types of things that I've got on my strategy whiteboard back in the engineering office there, and that we're, that's why we're building this team right now out there. And but again, we as the Well Done Foundation, we still need to have sort of the hub, if you would, and the system, the base to be able to support these projects uniformly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not just because we can't have every show out there kind of doing things differently, because at the end of the day we have to be able to bring the data in, and assimilate it and communicate it such that we can use that to generate carbon offsets. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a ton of requirements in the protocol of how that needs to happen. And so anyway, that part is so in addition to gallivanting around the country and trying to bring new partners on and identify target projects for us, it's also really kind of taking that step back and building a leadership team that is going to be there to be able to support this as we're stepping up. So we're working on building our team, man, building our ecosystem here, and but all the while doing good work, communicating that good work, and keeping the stoke alive, if you would, with all those people who are following the project and being a part of this cool effort.
Yeah, and wasting part of your Saturday talking to me.
Always hanging out. Well, I actually, as soon as I'm done here, I'm literally headed back into the field to go move some of these monitoring units around. So,
Okay.
yeah, getting them positioned, and then and then I'm, tomorrow, Monday is Stacey's birthday, but I'm leaving for Pennsylvania, so I figured that we'd hang out tomorrow a little bit. So I told her I was talking to you today. She said to say hi. So.
Oh, well, hi back to her, and thank you guys both for these little guys.
Yeah, there you go.
They're fantastic, and Joan loves playing with this, and so
right on. Well,
we gotta find a good place to stick this guy.
Yeah, and we'll get you some more. And please, for sure, reach out and touch base, or communicate to Zach and Jesse for us. We appreciate everything that those guys are doing.
Well, I won't keep you from the field anymore unless there's anything else you want to share. But I really appreciate you jumping on today on your Saturday.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a great day. It was good to catch up and physically be here and see what's going on. They're making good progress, and that's great to see. Since we're traveling through, Stacey was kind enough to invite us over for dinner last night to their home here in Shelby and made an excellent chicken marsala. So we really appreciate her hospitality and patience with a little bit of loud Joan action going on. But we had a great night, and it was really kind of her to invite us over. One last thank you to Stacey and Curtis for this terrific update and for the hard work and long hours you're putting in to make our world a better place. Thank you for watching. I'll have a link to their website in the description of this video if you're interested in donating, volunteering, or just learning more about the Well Done Foundation. Finally, as we look at this time-lapse of one open well, it's a reminder that there are millions of these across the country and millions more around the world, venting methane and hydrogen sulfide into the air while serving no purpose, day and night, every day. While the challenge is daunting, I'm glad to know that the Well Done Foundation is working on it and scaling quickly. Thanks again, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.